3 days after we buried my wife of 42 years, her attorney handed me a sealed envelope with instructions to open it alone. Inside, in Sarah's handwriting, were 4 words that stopped my heart. Don't trust our sons. My name is Robert Shun, and I'm about to tell you how my deceased wife orchestrated the most elaborate sting operation for beyond the grave. What she uncovered about Marcus and Daniel, our own children, was so disturbing that she spent her final 6 months gathering evidence instead of telling me the truth. She knew I wouldn't believe her. She knew I'd need proof. Before I tell you exactly what was in that letter and what I did with the information, please subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from. Stories like this need to be shared because predators don't just exist outside our families. Sometimes they're sitting at our dinner table. The letter was 3 pages long. Sarah's handwriting got shakier toward the end, weaker as the cancer progressed. But her message was crystal clear. Robert, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I'm so sorry to leave you like this, but there's something you need to know. Our sons are planning to take everything from you. Not after you die naturally, but soon. Very soon. I found evidence they're going to have you declared mentally incompetent. They've already contacted lawyers. They've forged medical documents. They've been stealing from your accounts for 18 months. I wanted to tell you while I was alive, but they were watching me too closely. They know I'm dying. They're waiting for me to be gone so they can move against you without interference. I've spent my last 6 months gathering proof. Everything you need is in my safe deposit box at First National Bank. Box 847. The key is taped under the bottom drawer of my jewelry box. Don't confront them yet. They're more dangerous than you realize. Get the evidence first, then protect yourself. I love you. I'm sorry I have to fight this battle for you after I'm gone, but I won't let them destroy you. Your wife, Sarah. I sat in our bedroom, the letter trembling in my hands, and couldn't breathe. Marcus was 38, a successful corporate attorney in Seattle. Daniel was 35, a financial advisor in Portland. Both married, both with children I adored. Both my sons. This had to be a mistake. Maybe the cancer had affected Sarah's judgment toward the end. Maybe the pain medications caused paranoia. There had to be an explanation. But Sarah Chun had been the sharpest person I'd ever known. Valedictorian at Stanford, 30 years as a contracts attorney, a mind that could spot a con from 3 states away. If she'd spent 6 months investigating our sons, she found something real. I looked at the date on the letter. She'd written it 4 weeks before she died. Sealed it, given it to her attorney with strict instructions. My hands were still shaking when I walked to Sarah's jewelry box. The antique mahogany chest had been her grandmother's. I'd watched her open it 10,000 times in 42 years of marriage. I pulled out the bottom drawer, felt underneath. My fingers found tape, found metal. A small brass key. First National Bank opened at 9. It was currently 7 in the evening, which meant I had 14 hours to decide if I wanted to know the truth about my sons. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in Sarah's office, the room she'd used for 40 years of legal work, and thought about the last 18 months. Had there been signs I'd missed? Marcus had visited more frequently after Sarah's diagnosis. Every 2 weeks instead of every 2 months. He'd always been the distant one, focused on his career, but suddenly he was attentive, concerned about my well-being, asking about my investments, my retirement accounts, my estate planning. Dad, we need to make sure everything's organized, he'd said during one visit. Mom's medical bills are probably piling up. Let me help you manage things. I deal with this stuff professionally. I've been grateful. My 63-year-old brain was overwhelmed with Sarah's treatments, her pain management, watching her fade. Marcus offering to help had felt like a lifeline. Daniel had taken a different approach. He'd focused on my emotional state. You seem confused lately, Dad, he'd said during a visit 3 months ago. Forgetting things. Repeating yourself. Have you talked to a doctor about cognitive issues? At your age, it's important to catch these things early. I'd laughed it off. I was grieving, not declining. But Daniel had pressed the issue. Suggested neurologists. Mentioned early onset dementia. Even my grandchildren had heard him talking about Grandpa's memory problems. Sitting in Sarah's office at 2 in the morning, those conversations took on a different meaning. Marcus positioning himself as my financial helper. Daniel establishing a narrative about my mental decline. The pattern Sarah had seen was becoming visible to me, too. At 8:45 the next morning, I walked into First National Bank. The branch manager, Patricia Reynolds, had known Sarah for 20 years. Her face was still heavy with sympathy. "Robert, I'm so sorry for your loss. Sarah was an extraordinary woman." "Thank you, Patricia. I need to access her safe deposit box. Number 847. Something flickered across Patricia's face. "Of course. Let me get the signature card." She returned 5 minutes later, her expression careful and professional. Too professional. "Robert, I need to ask you something. Has anyone else inquired about this box recently?" My stomach dropped. "Why do you ask?" "Because 3 weeks ago, Marcus came in. He said Sarah had asked him to inventory her important documents as part of estate planning. He wanted access to her safe deposit box. Did you give it to him?" "No. Sarah had left explicit instructions that only she could access it, and after her death, only you. Not even you could access it while she was alive." Those were her exact instructions, which I thought was unusual. Sarah had known. She'd known Marcus would try to get the evidence before I could. "What did Marcus say when you refused?" Patricia hesitated. "He was very insistent. Mentioned that you were struggling with grief, possibly not thinking clearly. He suggested that as your son and an attorney, he should have access to protect family interests." "But you still refused?" Sarah's instructions were unambiguous. The box was sealed against everyone except her and you after her death. I followed her wishes. Patricia led me to the vault. My hands were steadier now. Sarah had predicted everything. Box 847 was larger than I expected. Patricia left me alone in the private room with it. Inside were 4 manila folders, each labeled in Sarah's precise handwriting. Folder 1, Financial Theft, Evidence and Timeline. Folder 2, Conservatorship Fraud, Legal Documents. Folder 3, Marcus, Complete Background. Folder 4, Daniel, Complete Background. I opened the first folder. My breath caught. Bank statements. Dozens of them. My retirement accounts, investment portfolios, the joint account Sarah and I had maintained for 40 years. All highlighted with Sarah's notes in the margins. March 2023. $15,000 withdrawn from Robert's Fidelity account. Forged signature. June 2023. $22,000 transferred from savings to unknown account. Robert didn't authorize. September 2023. $31,000 withdrawn from IRA. Early withdrawal penalty paid. Robert never notified. Page after page. Transaction after transaction. Sarah had documented 18 months of systematic theft. The total came to $347,000. But it was the next section that made my hands shake. Copies of checks I'd supposedly written. My signature on each one. Except I'd never written them. Sarah had circled the signatures with a red pen and written, "Forgeries." Note the R in Robert. Marcus makes it too angular. Daniel makes the N too rounded. They're taking turns. She'd analyzed their forgery techniques like a handwriting expert, because that's exactly what she'd done. The folder included a report from a certified forensic document examiner Sarah had hired privately. Professional analysis confirming the signatures were fakes. My sons had been robbing me for 1.5 years, while their mother was dying of cancer. I opened folder 2 with hands that weren't steady anymore. Conservatorship fraud, the label read. Inside were legal documents I'd never seen. A petition for conservatorship filed in King County, Washington, dated 2 months ago. Marcus Chun, attorney, requesting to be appointed conservator over his father, Robert Chun, age 63, due to significant cognitive decline and inability to manage financial affairs. Supporting documentation included a neurologist's report diagnosing me with early-stage dementia. I'd never seen this neurologist. The appointment dates were days when I'd been with Sarah at her oncology treatments. Impossible. Affidavits from Marcus and Daniel describing incidents where I'd been confused, disoriented, and unable to recognize family members. Complete fabrications. Financial records showing erratic and dangerous spending patterns, the very withdrawals they'd forged. Sarah had attached yellow sticky notes throughout. Dr. Harrison Parks, paid consultant, frequently testifies in conservatorship fraud cases. Bar complaints filed against him in 3 states. Another note. Marcus withdrew this petition 6 weeks ago. My attorney friend called and said he'd be filing an objection with evidence of fraud. They're waiting for me to die before trying again. Sarah had stopped them once. From her hospital bed, dying of cancer, she'd protected me. But she knew once she was gone, they'd file again immediately. I opened folder 3. Marcus' complete background. My oldest son, the straight A student, the law school graduate, the corporate attorney I'd been so proud of. Sarah's investigation told a different story. Marcus had been fired from his previous firm for billing fraud. Not publicly. They'd let him resign quietly. But Sarah had found the internal documents. She'd hired a private investigator. Marcus owed $280,000 in gambling debts. Not to casinos, to private lenders. The kind who don't use legal collection methods. He had 6 months to pay or face consequences that made bankruptcy look pleasant. His marriage was falling apart. His wife Jennifer had filed for separation. Marcus needed money desperately, and my estate was worth $2.4 million. Folder 4 was about Daniel, my younger son, the one who'd always been gentle, sensitive, artistic until he'd gone into finance. Daniel's firm was under investigation for securities fraud. He'd been recommending bad investments to elderly clients, taking kickbacks from the companies. The SEC investigation was in early stages, but Sarah's investigator had found the evidence. Daniel was looking at criminal charges and civil liability that could reach 7 figures. He needed money for lawyers, for settlements, for escape. Both my sons had been circling like vultures, waiting for their mother to die so they could devour their father. At the bottom of folder 4 was a USB drive and a note. Robert, everything on this drive is backed up in 3 locations. My attorney has copies. Don't let them know you have this until you're ready. They're dangerous when cornered. Plan carefully. I love you. I wish I could be there to help. But you're stronger than you think. Fight back. Make them pay for betraying us. Sarah, I sat in that bank vault for 2 hours, reading every page, studying every document. Sarah had given me a complete blueprint of my son's betrayal and the tools to destroy them. But she'd also given me something else. A warning in her final note. They're dangerous when cornered. The question wasn't whether to fight back. Sarah had made that decision for me. The question was how to do it safely, how to make sure Marcus and Daniel face consequences without destroying me in the process. I thought about my wife, spending her final 6 months investigating our children instead of resting. Hiring investigators and handwriting experts while undergoing chemotherapy. Protecting me from beyond the grave because she knew I wouldn't believe the truth without overwhelming evidence. I closed the folders, locked the box, and walked out of the bank. Marcus and Daniel thought they were waiting for the right moment to strike. They had no idea their mother had already struck first. Now it was my turn to execute her plan. But I needed help. This wasn't something I could handle alone. Sarah had known that too. At the very bottom of the USB drive folder was a business card. James Whitmore, criminal defense attorney, specializes in elder abuse and financial exploitation. Written on the back in Sarah's handwriting. I've already briefed him. He's expecting your call. You could trust him. S. Even dying, Sarah had been 3 steps ahead of everyone. I called Whitmore from my car. He answered on the second ring. Mr. Chun, I've been waiting for your call. I'm very sorry about Sarah. She was remarkable. You knew about all of this? Yes. She came to me 6 months ago, showed me preliminary evidence. We've been building the case since then. She wanted everything airtight before you learned the truth. Why didn't she tell me herself? Whitmore paused. She said you try to fix it. Try to talk to them, reason with them, give them a chance to explain. She said you're a good father who couldn't imagine your sons being this corrupt. She needed you to see irrefutable proof first. Sarah had known me too well. She was right. If she'd told me Marcus and Daniel were stealing from me, I would have confronted them immediately, given them a chance to confess and repent. They would have lied, covered their tracks, and continued the plan. What happens now? I asked. Now he said trap. Sarah designed it before she died. We just need your cooperation to execute it. Can you come to my office this afternoon? 2 o'clock. I'll be there. Whitmore's office was downtown, 15th floor of a glass tower with views of the Columbia River. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with sharp eyes and an air of controlled intensity. Sarah gave me specific instructions, he said, spreading documents across his conference table. She wanted Marcus and Daniel prosecuted criminally, not just stopped. She wanted them to face prison time for what they'd done. Can we actually do that? With the evidence she gathered? Absolutely. Forgery, financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, fraud, conspiracy. We're looking at multiple felonies. But here's where it gets complicated. Whitmore pulled up a legal document on his laptop. Marcus filed and withdrew one conservatorship petition. If he files again after Sarah's death, and we immediately oppose it with fraud evidence, he'll know someone was investigating. He'll destroy evidence, create cover stories, maybe flee. So what do? We let him file. We let him think it's working. We document everything he does wrong, every fraudulent claim, every forged document. We build an airtight criminal case. Then we spring the trap in court with prosecutors waiting. I sat back. You want me to let my son try to take control of my life? Temporarily. With safeguards. We'll be watching every move. The moment there's actual danger to you or your assets, we shut it down. But Sarah believed Marcus would incriminate himself further if given rope. And Daniel's the weak link. He's scared. The SEC investigation has him paranoid. If we approach him correctly, offer him immunity for testimony against Marcus, he'll flip. Sarah had thought of everything. She designed a strategy that would not only stop Marcus and Daniel, but ensure they face criminal consequences. She'd been a prosecutor's dream witness, gathering evidence with legal precision. There's one more thing, Whitmore said. He pulled out another document. Sarah updated her, 6 months ago. She left her entire estate, about $800,000 to you, with specific instructions that it be placed in an irrevocable trust that Marcus and Daniel can never access. She also left detailed letters to each of them, to be delivered only after they're arrested. What do the letters say? I don't know. She sealed them, but she said they needed to understand that she knew everything, that she watched them betray their dying mother, and that she orchestrated their downfall from her deathbed. The thought of Sarah writing those letters while undergoing chemo made my throat tight. How long did she know? She discovered the first theft about 8 months before she died. Hired an investigator immediately. Spent her remaining time building the case instead of confronting them. She said, Whitmore paused. She said she couldn't bear to spend her final months watching them lie to her face, so she pretended not to know. Let them think they were getting away with it. It gave her motivation to fight longer. My wife had used her rage at our son's betrayal as fuel to survive long enough to protect me. The thought was simultaneously heartbreaking and awe-inspiring. When do we start? I asked. Marcus will file the new conservatorship petition within 2 weeks. Sarah predicted it. Once your protective spouse is gone, he'll move fast. We need you to act vulnerable, confused, easy to manipulate. Can you do that? I thought about acting incompetent while my sons tried to rob me. It felt like betraying Sarah's memory to play weak. But then I realized this was exactly what she wanted. She'd set the stage. Now I just had to perform my part. I can do it. What's the timeline? 6 weeks maximum. We let Marcus file. Let him present his fraudulent evidence to the court. Let him think he's winning. Then at the final hearing, we present Sarah's evidence, and the DA's office makes arrests in the courtroom. Public arrest? Sarah specifically requested it. She said they humiliated her by stealing while she was dying. They deserved to be humiliated in return. My gentle, kind wife had designed a trap that would destroy our sons publicly. The cancer hadn't made her paranoid. It had made her ruthless. Over the next week, I played my part perfectly. When Marcus called to check on me, I sounded vague and forgetful. Dad, have you been taking your medications? What medications? Your blood pressure pills. The ones Dr. Morrison prescribed. I didn't take blood pressure medication. Dr. Morrison wasn't my doctor. Marcus was creating a false medical narrative for the conservatorship. Oh, right. I think so. Maybe. What day is it? It's Thursday, Dad. Are you okay? You sound confused. I'm fine. Just tired. Missing your mother. I know, Dad. Listen, I'm gonna come visit this weekend. We need to talk about some important things. Can you make sure you're home Saturday afternoon? I think so. I'll try to remember. Dad, write it down. Saturday at 2. I'm worried about you. After I hung up, I immediately called Whitmore. Marcus is coming Saturday. He said we need to talk about important things. Perfect. That's when he'll pitch the conservatorship. He'll say it's for your protection. He'll have documents ready to sign. Don't sign anything. Act confused, but cooperative. Tell him you need time to think about it. Should I record the conversation? Oregon is a one-party consent state. Yes, record everything. Saturday came. I set up my phone to record video, hid on a bookshelf with a view of the living room. When Marcus arrived at 2, I was ready. My oldest son looked tired. Stress lines around his eyes, his usually perfect suit slightly rumpled. The gambling debts were taking their toll. Dad, thanks for making time. I know these last few weeks have been hard. Your mother's gone, I said softly. Not acting. The grief was real. I know. I miss her too. Marcus sat across from me, his attorney briefcase on his lap. That's actually what I want to talk about. Mom's death changes things financially estate-wise. We need to make sure you're protected. Protected from what? From people who might take advantage. From bad financial decisions. Dad, you're 63, you're grieving, you're alone now. That makes you vulnerable. I've managed money for 40 years, Marcus. I know, but things are different now. I've noticed some concerning patterns in your behavior. Memory lapses, confusion, poor judgment. I think we need to consider having someone help you with major decisions. Here it was, the pitch. What kind of help? Marcus pulled papers from his briefcase. It's called a conservatorship. Basically, the court appoints someone trustworthy, me, in this case, to help manage your finances and make sure you don't make mistakes that could cost you everything. You want to control my money? No, Dad. I want to protect it. Look, I've seen cases where elderly people, no offense, get scammed, make bad investments, forget to pay bills. This just provides oversight. You'd still have access to your money. I'd just be there to approve major decisions. I looked at the papers. They were pre-filled forms for me to sign, requesting that Marcus be appointed my conservator due to cognitive decline and inability to manage my affairs. This says I'm incompetent. That's just legal language. It's standard. All it means is you want help. I don't feel incompetent. Marcus's expression shifted, became more urgent. Dad, last week you forgot what day it was. You couldn't remember if you'd taken your medication. 2 weeks ago, Daniel said you left the stove on for 3 hours. These are warning signs. I didn't leave the stove on. Daniel had lied. They were creating false incidents to justify the conservatorship. I need to think about this. There's nothing to think about. This protects you. Sign the papers, and I'll file them with the court next week. It's simple. If it's so simple, why does it feel like you're rushing me? Marcus's jaw tightened. I'm not rushing you. I'm trying to help before something bad happens. What if you forget to pay the mortgage? What if you get scammed out of your savings? What if my son is lying to me? The words came out before I could stop them. Too aggressive. I was breaking character. But Marcus's reaction told me everything. His face went pale, then red. What are you talking about? Your mother died 3 weeks ago. Now you're here with legal papers saying I'm incompetent. Seems convenient. Dad, the timing isn't. I've been concerned for months. Mom was too sick to notice your decline, but I saw it. Daniel saw it. This isn't about convenience. This is about protection. Protection for who? Me or you? What the hell does that mean? I stood up. I think you should leave, Marcus. I'm not signing anything today. Dad, you're being irrational. This is exactly the kind of poor judgment I'm talking about. Get out of my house. Marcus stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something ugly cross his face. Not concern, not love, calculation. He was wondering if he could force this, how hard to push. Finally, he gathered his papers. Fine, but think about what I said. Really think about it. Because if you can't manage your own affairs, the state will appoint someone anyway. Better it's family than a stranger. After he left, I called Whitmore immediately. I broke character. Got confrontational. I might have ruined the plan. What exactly did you say? I replayed the conversation. Whitmore was quiet for a moment, then laughed. Robert, that was perfect. You didn't break character. You played a confused man who occasionally has flashes of clarity and suspicion. That's exactly what someone with real cognitive issues would do. Marcus will tell the court you were paranoid and irrational, which supports his conservatorship narrative. So the plan is still on? Better than on. Marcus just showed his hand on video. He pressured a vulnerable person to sign legal documents without proper explanation or time to consider. That's elder abuse on camera. He also made false statements about incidents that never happened. We've got him. What's next? He'll file the conservatorship petition this week. Daniel will submit a supporting affidavit claiming you're incompetent. We'll let it go to the preliminary hearing. Then we destroy them. For days later, I was served with legal papers. Marcus had filed for conservatorship in King County Superior Court. The petition claimed I was suffering from dementia, couldn't manage my finances, and posed a danger to myself through poor decision-making. Daniel's affidavit was attached. 3 pages describing incidents where I'd been confused, disoriented, and unable to recognize family members. Every incident was a lie, but they were detailed, specific lies that would sound credible to a judge. The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks away. Whitmore filed an opposition brief the day before the deadline. But it was weak, deliberately so. We argued I was competent, but provided minimal evidence. We wanted Marcus to feel confident, to think he was winning. The night before the hearing, Whitmore called. Tomorrow will be hard. Marcus will present his case. The fake medical reports, the affidavits, the financial records showing the fraudulent withdrawals as evidence of your incompetence. You'll have to sit there and listen to your sons lie about you to a judge. I know. Can you do it? Can you stay calm? I thought about Sarah sitting in the oncology ward while Marcus and Daniel visited and pretended to care, knowing they were robbing us, staying silent and gathering evidence. If Sarah could do it while dying, I can do it healthy. Good, because after tomorrow, they'll never hurt anyone again. The King County Courthouse was cold and sterile. I sat with Whitmore at the respondent's table. Marcus sat at the petitioner's table with his own attorney, a slick-looking man named Bradley Pierce. Daniel sat in the gallery, ready to testify. He wouldn't look at me. Judge Catherine Walsh entered, a woman in her 50s with a reputation for being thorough and skeptical. Sarah had researched the judges carefully. Walsh was perfect for our purposes. This is a preliminary hearing for conservatorship petition number 2024, CV 7834, Walsh announced. Marcus Chun seeks to be appointed conservator over his father, Robert Chun. Mr. Pierce, present your case. Pierce stood. Your Honor, this is a straightforward matter of protecting a vulnerable adult. Robert Chun is 63 years old and suffering from progressive dementia. His late wife managed their affairs until her death 3 weeks ago. Without her supervision, Mr. Chun has demonstrated dangerous incompetence. Pierce called his first witness, Dr. Harrison Parks, the neurologist who'd supposedly diagnosed me. Dr. Parks, did you examine Robert Chun? Yes, on 3 occasions between February and April of this year. I'd been with Sarah at her treatments during those dates. This man had never examined me. And what was your diagnosis? Early-stage dementia with moderate cognitive impairment. Mr. Chun showed memory loss, confusion, impaired judgment. In my professional opinion, he requires assistance managing his affairs. Pierce introduced the medical reports. They looked official, complete with letterhead and professional signatures. Total fabrications. Whitmore cross-examined briefly, half-heartedly. He was playing his part. Next, Marcus took the stand. My oldest son, wearing his best suit, looking concerned and dutiful. Marcus, describe your father's recent behavior. It's been deteriorating for months. He forgets conversations, repeats himself, left the stove on multiple times. Last week, he couldn't remember what day it was. When I tried to help him organize his finances, he became paranoid and accused me of lying. Why do you believe he needs a conservator? Because he's vulnerable. Without my mother's supervision, he's making dangerous decisions. He's withdrawn large sums of cash without remembering why. He's talking about investments that make no sense. If someone doesn't protect him, he'll lose everything. Daniel testified next, confirming Marcus's story. More lies, more fabricated incidents, more false concern. Judge Walsh listened carefully, taking notes. When the petitioner's case concluded, she looked at Whitmore. Does the respondent wish to present evidence? Not at this time, Your Honor. However, we request a continuance to gather our own medical evaluations. This was the script. Weak opposition, request for delay, make Marcus think he was winning. But then something unexpected happened. Judge Walsh set down her pen and looked directly at Marcus. Mr. Chun, you're an attorney, correct? Yes, Your Honor. And you're familiar with the legal standards for conservatorship? Of course. Then you know that conservatorship is an extreme measure, essentially stripping someone of their civil rights. The burden of proof is substantial. Marcus shifted in his seat. Yes, Your Honor, but the evidence clearly shows. I've reviewed the evidence. The medical reports, the affidavits, the financial records. Very thorough, almost too thorough. The courtroom went silent. I'm troubled by several elements of this petition, Walsh continued. First, these medical evaluations were supposedly conducted while Mr. Robertson was documented as being at his late wife's cancer treatments. The oncology clinic has him signing in as her companion on all 3 dates Dr. Parks claims to have examined him. Marcus's face went white. Second, the financial records showing erratic withdrawals are inconsistent with the bank's own transaction logs. They've been altered. Poorly. Pierce stood up. Your Honor, I'm not sure what you're. Sit down, Mr. Pierce. I'm not finished. Walsh's voice was ice. Third, I received a communication yesterday from the Washington State Bar Association. Apparently, they've been investigating allegations that you, Mr. Marcus Chun, were involved in billing fraud at your previous firm. Whitmore stood slowly, and I realized this wasn't the plan. Walsh had gone off script. She'd found something on her own. Your Honor, if I may, you may not, because I also received a packet of information this morning from the district attorney's office. Information about ongoing investigations into both Marcus and Daniel Chun. Information that suggests this entire conservatorship petition is an elaborate fraud designed to gain control of their father's assets. Marcus tried to stand. Your Honor, I don't know what. Bailiff, please ask the officers outside to come in. 2 uniformed police officers entered the courtroom. Marcus Chun, Daniel Chun, you're both under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Officers, please read them their rights. The courtroom erupted. Pierce was shouting objections. Marcus looked like he'd been struck. Daniel actually tried to run, but was caught immediately. I sat frozen, watching my sons being handcuffed in court. Whitmore leaned over. The DA moved early. Walsh must have seen something in the evidence that convinced her it was criminal, not just civil. Marcus was shouting as they let him out. Dad, tell them. Tell them I was trying to help you. I said nothing, just watched. After the courtroom cleared, Judge Walsh called Whitmore and me to her chambers. Mr. Chun, I apologize for the dramatic proceedings. When the DA's office contacted me yesterday with evidence of fraud, I had a choice: continue the hearing and potentially let them flee or act decisively. I chose the latter. Thank you, Your Honor. I understand your late wife gathered the evidence that led to this investigation. She must have been an extraordinary woman. She was. I'm granting an immediate dismissal of the conservatorship petition and issuing a restraining order preventing either of your sons from contacting you or accessing your property. The criminal proceedings will take several months, but based on the evidence I've seen, they'll both face significant prison time. I walked out of the courthouse into cold Seattle rain. Whitmore followed. Well, he said, that was unexpected. Sarah would have loved it, I said. She always appreciated efficiency. What happens now? Now I go home and read the letters she wrote to Marcus and Daniel, the ones to be delivered after their arrest. Do you want to know what happens to them? The prosecution will likely offer Daniel a deal if he testifies against Marcus. I thought about that. Sarah designed this whole thing. She knew exactly what would happen. I trust her judgment. I drove home slowly, thinking about my sons in jail cells, my wife in her grave, and the life I'd built that had somehow turned into this. At home, I found the sealed letters in Sarah's desk. 2 envelopes, one for each son. I opened Marcus's first. Marcus, by the time you read this, you'll be under arrest for trying to steal from your father. You'll probably be confused about how he found out. Let me explain. I've known about your gambling debts for 8 months. I've known about the forged withdrawals for 7 months. I've known about your plan to have your father declared incompetent for 6 months. I know because I'm a better attorney than you'll ever be, and I spent my final months building a case against you instead of resting. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Did you think your dying mother was too weak to investigate? You underestimated me. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was assuming your father wouldn't believe the truth. With evidence, he believes everything. And I gathered evidence like my life depended on it. Because his life did depend on it. You stole from us while I was in chemotherapy. You forged documents while I was having radiation. You planned to rob your father weeks after burying me. What kind of man does that? I'll never know who you became or why. I thought I raised you better. But it doesn't matter now. You're going to prison, and your father is protected. I wish things had been different. I wish I'd been wrong about you. But I wasn't. And now you'll pay the price. Your mother, who loved you until you made it impossible. I couldn't read Daniel's letter. Not yet. I sat with Marcus's letter for an hour, thinking about the son I'd raised and the stranger he'd become. My phone rang. Whitmore. Robert, the DA wants to meet with you tomorrow. Daniel's attorney is already negotiating a plea deal. He's offering to testify against Marcus in exchange for reduced charges. What will Marcus get? If convicted on all counts? 8 to 12 years. Daniel might get probation and restitution if he cooperates fully. 8 to 12 years. My son would be in prison until he was 50. Do I have to testify? Probably. But the video evidence from your house, Sarah's documentation, the forensic analysis, it's overwhelming. Your testimony would just confirm what the evidence already proves. I'll do whatever the DA needs. That night, I finally opened Daniel's letter. Daniel, you were always the sensitive one, the artistic one, the son who cried at sad movies and brought home stray cats. What happened to that boy? I know about the SEC investigation. I know about the elderly clients you defrauded. I know about the kickbacks and the false recommendations. And I know you joined Marcus's plan to steal from your father because you were desperate. Desperation doesn't excuse betrayal, Daniel. You could have asked us for help. We would have given you every penny we had to keep you out of trouble. But instead, you chose to rob us. You visited me in the hospital 3 times a week, held my hand during chemo, told me you loved me. And the whole time, you were planning to destroy your father the moment I died. That's not desperation. That's evil. I hope you remember those hospital visits when you're facing the consequences. I hope you remember holding your dying mother's hand while plotting against your father. I hope it haunts you. Maybe you'll cooperate with prosecutors and get a lighter sentence. Maybe you'll testify against Marcus to save yourself. That would be consistent with who you've become, someone who sacrifices others to protect himself. Or maybe you'll find some courage and take responsibility for what you've done. I doubt it, but I can hope. Either way, your father is safe now. That's all that matters to me. Your mother, who wishes she'd been wrong about you. I folded both letters and put them away. Sarah's voice from beyond the grave, delivering justice with surgical precision. The trial took 4 months. Daniel took a plea deal, 5 years probation, full restitution of the $347,000, and testimony against Marcus. He also had to surrender his financial advisor license permanently and cooperate with the SEC investigation. Marcus fought the charges. His attorney argued entrapment, claimed the video evidence was inadmissible, suggested that Sarah's terminal illness had made her paranoid, and that her evidence was the product of medication-induced delusion. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Judge Walsh sentenced him to 10 years in federal prison. No parole eligibility for 8 years. Additionally, he was disbarred and ordered to pay $500,000 in fines and restitution. I attended every day of the trial, sat in the front row where Marcus could see me. He never looked at me once. At sentencing, Judge Walsh asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I stood slowly, walked to the podium, and pulled out a piece of paper. Your Honor, I don't have much to say. My wife said it better than I ever could. I read Sarah's letter to Marcus aloud in court. Every word, every accusation, every expression of betrayal and disappointment. When I finished, Marcus was crying. The first emotion I'd seen from him since his arrest. My wife spent her final months protecting me instead of resting. I continued. She gathered evidence while undergoing chemotherapy. She built a legal case while dying of cancer. She loved me enough to fight a battle she knew she wouldn't live to see finished. Marcus and Daniel loved themselves more than they loved either of us. That's really all there is to say. I sat down. The courtroom was silent. After sentencing, Daniel's attorney approached me in the hallway. Mr. Chun, Daniel would like to speak with you. To apologize. No. He's very remorseful. He wants you to know. No. Tell Daniel that if he wants to apologize, he can write a letter. I'll read it eventually. Maybe. But I won't speak to him. Mr. Chun, he's still your son. No. He stopped being my son when he decided to rob his dying mother. Now he's just someone I used to know who's paying for his crimes. I walked away. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from Marcus. Prison mail, carefully screened, forwarded by Whitmore. I almost threw it away unread. But curiosity won. Dad, I know you probably won't read this. I know I don't deserve for you to read it. But I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. Every day in here, I think about Mom in that hospital room, knowing what we were doing, gathering evidence while we pretended to care. The betrayal we committed wasn't just against you. It was against her while she was dying. I can't explain why I did it. The gambling debts felt insurmountable. The pressure from the people I owed money to was overwhelming. I convinced myself that we'd pay you back, that it wasn't really stealing if we had good intentions. That was a lie. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew it was wrong. I did it anyway. Mom's letter said I underestimated her. She was right. She was always smarter than me, more thorough, more strategic. I should have known she'd figure it out. Part of me wonders if I wanted her to figure it out, if I was sabotaging myself because I couldn't live with what I was becoming. That's probably giving myself too much credit. I have 8 years left on my sentence. 8 years to think about what I destroyed. My relationship with you. Daniel's future. Mom's final months of peace. Our family. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't think I deserve it. But I want you to know that I understand what I did, and I'm sorry. Your son, Marcus. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer with Sarah's letters to the boys. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe not. The money Marcus and Daniel stole was fully recovered through restitution orders and asset seizures. I put it all in a trust for my grandchildren, Marcus's 2 kids and Daniel's daughter. They'd have college funds their fathers couldn't touch. I visited Sarah's grave every Sunday, brought flowers, told her about the trial, the sentencing, the aftermath. You were right about everything, I said to her headstone. They were worse than you thought, but you stopped them. You protected me even after you were gone. I don't know how to thank you for that. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees. If I believed in signs, I'd say it was Sarah acknowledging me. A year after the trial, I was reorganizing Sarah's office when I found one more letter. This one addressed to me, separate from the others. Dated the day before she died. Robert, if you're reading this, it means everything worked out. Marcus and Daniel are facing consequences, and you're safe. I'm glad. I'm sorry I had to spend my final months this way. I wanted to spend them with you, enjoying what time we had left, making peace with death. Instead, I spent them investigating our sons and building a legal case. But I don't regret it. Protecting you was more important than my comfort. Making sure you were safe after I was gone mattered more than a few months of peace. You're probably wondering why I didn't just tell you. Why I made you discover everything yourself. The truth is, I knew you wouldn't believe me without proof. You're a good father, Robert. You always saw the best in Marcus and Daniel. If I'd told you they were stealing from us, you would have thought the cancer was affecting my judgment. So I gathered evidence instead. Irrefutable proof that would convince even you. I also knew that if I told you while I was alive, you'd confront them. You'd try to fix it. You'd give them chances to explain and repent. And they would have lied, covered their tracks, and hurt you worse after I was gone. This way, they didn't know we were watching. They kept incriminating themselves. And when they finally struck, we were ready. I'm not sorry for setting this trap. I'm only sorry you had to spring it alone. You're strong enough for this, Robert. Stronger than you think. You'll get through it. You'll rebuild your life. And maybe, eventually, you'll find peace. I love you. I've loved you for 42 years. And I'll love you beyond death, beyond time, beyond everything. Thank you for being my husband. Thank you for being someone worth protecting. Take care of yourself. Live well. Don't spend too much time being angry at Marcus and Daniel. They're not worth your energy. Move forward. Be happy. That's what I want for you. All my love, always, Sarah. I sat on the floor of her office and cried for the first time since the funeral. Not for Marcus and Daniel. For Sarah. For the wife who'd loved me enough to fight my battles from the grave. 2 years have passed since I opened that first letter. Marcus is still in prison, up for parole consideration in 6 years. Daniel completed his probation and moved to Arizona. He sends Christmas cards. I don't respond, but I don't throw them away either. My grandchildren visit sometimes. Marcus's ex-wife brings the kids quarterly. We don't talk about their father. We talk about school and sports and normal things. I make sure they know I love them, that their father's mistakes aren't their fault. I sold a house. Too many memories, both good and bad. Bought a smaller place in Bellingham, near the water. Started volunteering with an elder abuse prevention organization. I tell Sarah's story. How a dying woman protected her husband from their own children. How she gathered evidence with legal precision. How she won a battle she didn't live to see finished. People need to hear these stories. They need to know that predators don't just exist outside our families. Sometimes they're our own children, our siblings, our trusted relatives. And they're sophisticated. They use legal systems, medical diagnoses, and our love against us. But they can be stopped. With evidence, with planning, with people who care enough to fight back. Sarah taught me that. In her final months, dying of cancer, she taught me that love means protecting people even when it's hard. Even when it means destroying your own children to save your spouse. I think about her every day. About her strength, her intelligence, her ruthless love. She could have spent her final months resting, accepting death, making peace. Instead, she spent them gathering evidence and building a case. That was love in its purest form. Not soft or sentimental. Strategic and fierce. If you're watching this and you've experienced betrayal from family members who thought you were too old, too trusting, or too vulnerable to fight back, I want you to know something. You're not alone. Elder abuse is epidemic. Financial exploitation by family members is one of the fastest growing crimes in America. But you can fight back. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Get expert help. Don't let shame or family loyalty keep you silent while predators destroy you. Sarah spent her dying months proving that love is stronger than betrayal, that evidence beats lies, and that even from the grave, a determined person can deliver justice. I'm 65 now. I have the money Marcus and Daniel tried to steal. I have Sarah's legacy of fierce protection. I have my grandchildren and a life that's smaller but more authentic than before. And I have Sarah's letters, reminding me that real love fights for people even when fighting is the hardest thing you can do. If this story resonated with you, please share it. Comment below if you've experienced elder abuse or financial exploitation by family members. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And together, we can warn others before predators strike. Subscribe to this channel for more true stories about fighting back against family betrayal and elder abuse. Your support helps these crucial messages reach people who need them most. Sarah once told me, "Robert, the only thing evil needs to triumph is for good people to do nothing." She didn't do nothing. Even dying, she fought. That's the lesson. That's what I want you to remember. Fight back. Protect yourself. Don't let anyone, even family, especially family, destroy you because they think you're too weak or too trusting to stop them. You're not weak. You're not helpless. And with the right evidence and the right help, you can win. Sarah proved that. And her victory, delivered from beyond the grave, is proof that justice doesn't die just because we do. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being part of a community that refuses to let predators win. My name is Robert Chun. My wife was Sarah Chun, and this is how she saved my life after death.